المتحدث الثاني سيكون معنا السفير نيغوس كبدي، المدير العام لشؤون الشرق الأوسط في وزارة الخارجية الأفريقية. نيغوس كبدي. والمتحدث الثالث سيكون هينوك غيتيشو، وهو باحث رئيسي أو كبير الباحثين في معهد الشؤون الخارجية الأثيوبية. فليتفضل. الجلسة الحالية ستكون حول أفريقيا والعالم العربي، فرص الشراكة في عالم متنافس. وهذه الجلسة
in a competitive world. And in this session, we're going to allude to a number of points, particularly with regards to the relations between Africa and the Arab world, to be specific. And we're going to have the first presenter, Hawass Taqiya, who's a researcher, as I've previously alluded, and he's going to talk about Gulf states and Africa, and Gulf states and Africa, the game of intersecting interests. I now give the floor to you, sir, and we await the third guest to arrive to the podium. I beg your pardon. So, greetings, everyone. Greetings, everyone. I would like to thank the Institute of Foreign Affairs for the warm hospitality bestowed upon us since we first set foot in this beautiful capital city, Addis Ababa. And very happy to be here. I've learned a lot, and I am very happy. I am an Arab. I am an African. I am an Arab African. I am in my home continent and amongst my brothers and sisters. So I'm going to talk about Africa, and I will probably talk about the Horn of Africa and Ethiopia to be meaningful and specific. So I'm going to give examples here and there, because what I have seen is we have spoken about fragility, and I have seen that we have spoken about fragility, what it means, what it entails, and how to address fragility. So there are some researchers who have done their literature review, and they have alluded to empirical data, empirical research. But then again, if you look at Nassim Taleb, he worked with the IMF, and he managed to add data to provide us with clarity. And I'm going to look into also the Gulf states and what fragility means, what it entails, and how would it be possible for us to address it so that we change the status quo from fragility to anti-fragility.
realities of security regionalism, which is somewhat related with the previous presentation, which focused on the Sahel region. So my prime attention is giving emphasis to the Sahel region. So what makes the current security regionalism is a new reality? The first rationality behind new reality is that when states are withdrawn from the existing security arrangement, it is unlikely to have seen such kind of security arrangement like what we have seen in the Confederation of Sahel states. This is a new reality we have witnessed so far. The second one is regional actors, particularly global actors, who are trying to reshape the existing status quo in their own image. So they are backing such kind of regional security arrangements. So this is another new reality as far as security regionalism in the Sahel region is concerned. So what motivates me to focus on the Sahel region is for the last 2 years, I've been working on at the expert level, not only on the Horn of Africa, but also on the Sahel region. So such kind of exposure to the reality incentivized me to discuss a little bit more. So the content of the presentation is we will have introduction, a brief introduction. I will have methodology. Of course, the methodology, it is a policy-related research, but somehow the methodology is also covered like photographs and so forth from the media reports. These show us to what extent what's going on in the Sahel region and what kind of implication does it have. And I will have the context, and I will discuss the competing regionalism, that is the emergence of the Alliance of Sahel State. Of course, I would like to situate the discussion within Africa Challenge for Fragility and Capitalizing on International Competition. Of course, it is moved beyond international competition. It is somehow related to international rivalry. It is not as such competition. So what we have seen so far, as far as the Sahel states are concerned, it is a kind of rivalry. So I will discuss the political-military cooperation and its implication, and my insight will also focus on will SSA survive? We'll have discussion. And finally, I will have a conclusion. Of course, having security regionalism is not any phenomenon as far as African security landscape is concerned. So it is not a new reality. What matters is that the new reality related to the project is directly and indirectly supported by extra-continental actors, plus those states who are trying to forge their own security league are withdrawing from the existing security arrangement. Of course, withdrawing from the existing security arrangement is not a big deal. What matters most is that presenting oneself as a rival regional organization parallel with ECOWAS, that is a problem. And the another issue is that okay, let me go to the context. The 3 states withdrawal have been observed for the last 1.5 years. These are Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali. So ECOWAS is struggling to hold a common position, although its position is ambivalent, and it has faced institutional fragility to maintain not only the cohesion of the security organization, but also its own regional identity, as well as it's not living up to its own institutional pillars and normative pillars. And the second one is there is action and reaction. The action is taken by ECOWAS. Unfortunately or fortunately, the reaction taken by these states, plus the reaction taken by extra-continental actors, emboldened the 3 states to forge Alliance of Sahel states and to maintain their own, and to forge their own space. That is a I don't know why it's okay. And another one is terrorism and resources. And we have also faced shared threat perception. It has got a transnational character. unlike the previous period. As you know that the previous period, the transnational character of threat is related to terrorism, but nowadays the transnational threat perception is associated with mutual threat of aggression. And another one is coup d'etat and external powers and the inception of a new space. So, of course, that Sahel space is trying to forge by extra-continental actors, by including Ethiopia. I don't know whether it is intentional or unintentional, or it is a design by default. And that Sahel space is extended to Eritrea. So, directly or indirectly, the Horn of Africa is influenced by the security ramification emanating from the Sahel region. So, it is a fait accompli to have seen an alternative security arrangement in the Sahel region. So, if you look at the Sahel belt, it is running from Senegal up to Eritrea. So the World Bank sometimes, I don't know the intention of the World Bank, it is included Ethiopia. So the Sahel is extended to Eritrea and Sudan and Chad. These are the Sahel region. If you look at the map, so the action taken by the Continental Organization in response to the coup on July 29, the African Union issued a 15-day ultimatum. That ultimatum is aimed at to restore the constitutional authority in those states. This was, unfortunately, it was not successful. And again, the action was taken by the West African Economic Bloc, ECOWAS, have given coup leaders in Niger 1 week to cede power. This is another ultimatum given by the ECOWAS. Unfortunately or fortunately, on the side of the member states of the Sahel states, it was not responded positively. So if you look at in literature and in theories of air, if there is an imbalance between action and reaction, the consequence would have a disastrous consequence on the side of the action bearer. So the action bearers are AU and ECOWAS. So they have faced reputational damage because they are not up to the level of commitment. Then we have seen the response. The response is the Charter of Liptako-Gorma Charter. So this charter established the Alliance of Sahel States between Burkina Faso, the Republic of Mali, and the Republic of Niger. So if you look at the Liptako-Gorma Charter, which is Article 6, it says that any attack against the sovereignty and territorial integrity of one or more of the contracting parties will be considered as an act of aggression against other contracting parties. So this is a kind of solidifying deterrent strategy against the possible attack that comes from either a big brother, that could be Nigeria, or that could be emanated from other threatening actors, that could be ECOWAS. This is a response taken by, a bold response taken by ECOWAS, by Sahel states, which takes its manifestation in the Charter of Liptako-Gorma. So, look at this picture. ECOWAS made a kind of assembly in response to the coup d'etat. ECOWAS thought, they say that not only it bark, but it can also bite. So please turn around the statement. So ECOWAS has become only bark, it cannot bite. So that means ECOWAS didn't go extra miles to socialize and to demonstrate its commitment to its multiple conventions. So this is the ECOWAS response. And if you look at the statements made by the incumbent president of Nigeria, so he said that, His Excellency, we must stand firm on democracy. There is no governance, freedom, rule of law without democracy, and we will not accept coup after coup in West Africa again. And despite the fact that such kind of commitment, the Sahel states remain adherent to their position. And if you look at the demonstration against ECOWAS threatening use of force against Niger junta, so if you look at that, it seems that there are popular support on the side of the coup leaders. And the reaction, another reaction is made by the civil society, like the Bishop of West Africans, they warn against military intervention in Niger. So they have felt that if there was a kind of intervention by West Africa, so it would have a disastrous consequence, not only on the fragility of that given state, but also on the fragility of the entire region. That was the reaction from bishops of the Vatican Church. Another one is that Russia warns ECOWAS not to take military action. If you look at the statement of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Russia, so once upon a time, it made a kind of statement and a warning. This shows that directly or indirectly, Russia was behind cementing the alliance among the three states. So it helps Moscow to displace the geopolitical interest of the Western states. So Algeria, of course, it wanted a peaceful transition, but Algeria didn't like a military intervention to be taken by ECOWAS because Algeria is neighboring these states. So Algeria would have faced disastrous consequence if there is a more fragility in these states. So Chad has also taken similar stance. So compared to ECOWAS members, Chad and other states like Senegal had different position. So when I come to the Confederation of the Sahel states, in January 28 to 2023, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger announced their withdrawal from ECOWAS. So it didn't stop there. On 6 July 2023, they signed the Liptako-Gorma Charter. So basically, it aimed at ensuring mutual assistance, security restoration, and rebellion prevention. So it is a kind of mutual defense pact. And on 16 September, it formed the Alliance of Sahel States. It's a kind of confederation. But to what extent that confederation forged a distinct Sahel identity and a distinct Sahel space, it will be seen within the coming years. Implication. What kind of implication does it have? The first implication is that it has its own implication on region and regional order as far as the Alliance of Sahel States is concerned. So they are trying to carve their own space within the West Africa. That's the Sahel space. So that Sahel space will have the same challenge and they will aspire the same destiny. So that Sahel space somehow may be distinct from the West Africa space. Sometimes there is a kind of overlap between the Sahel space and the West African space. So that is a reshaping of the regional order in West Africa. So they consciously create regional identity, at least at the mind of the coup leaders. I don't know to what extent the public mass buys that regional identity, which is forged in parallel with West African identity. So what will be the base? That will be further discussion. It needs further discussion. What will be the base of the future Sahel space? And what factors? Of course, the factors are endogenous factors. Okay, I will finish it. Yes, I will finish it. And the second one is regional identity implications and the regional integration implication. There will be a challenge to free movement of people. So the ECOWAS member states are using the members of Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger as a bargaining chip to prevent, or as a tool, to prevent the formation of such kind of arrangement. So there is a competition between West African solidarity, the so-called West African solidarity, and the Sahel identity. And another implication is that ECOWAS has envisioned 2050, and it has envisioned regional integration. So the scheme of regional integration might be jeopardized by the formation of the Sahel State Alliance. The third one is a regional security arrangement. So it is not only competing, we have witnessed rival security arrangement. It is a new architecture in the West Africa. Of course, there were previous security arrangements like the G5, the Accra initiatives, and so forth. But this alternative regional arrangement is having a consent and a support from external actors, which are antithetical to the interest of the Western powers in the region. Another implication is that it has implication on ECOWAS institutional and normative frameworks. and the Protocol on Democracy and Good Governance, that is known as the anti-coup norm, is eroded. So the size, the mandate, the reputation, and the influence of EU had 15 members. With the withdrawal of 3 states, it are now, sorry, I will
time
finish.
is finished.
And another one is the institutional and normative framework of the EU is eroded. And the 5th one is the security cooperation, the revised Treaty of ECOWAS. Mali officially terminated diplomatic and defense cooperation with MINUSMA, cooperation with the West. Russia has got a presence in Iran, and other actors have got a presence in the region. Will it survive? Let me finish. Will it survive? The first one is that to what extent member states are committed to defense pacts. That could be a major factor for the survival of Alliance of Sahel states.
شكرا أستاذ هينوك.
Let me finish.
You're finished.
2 minutes. 1 minute. 1 minute.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry. Another one is if it opens up membership and secured according upper the charter, that could be second factor for the survival of Alliance of Sahel states. And the third one is to what extent non-Western support will be provided. And the fourth one is if ECOWAS is ambivalent enough to the Alliance of Sahel states. And another one is if there is another coup in West Africa, in adjacent area, that would be solidify the position of ECOWAS. Thank you very much.
شكرا جزيلا أستاذ هينوك.
Thank you very much, Mr. Henok, for this informative presentation. I will open the floor now for Q&A, and I will kindly request all participants to be as concise as possible in posing their questions. Professor Adam, I will start with you, please. Thank you very much for the opportunity. I think one of the presenters who addressed the future of Arab-African relationships, it is such an important issue, and I have participated in many forums and many conferences, and I believe we reached to a conclusion that Ethiopia, being the largest country in the Horn of Africa, its peace and security will enhance the peace and security of the whole region. Of course, Ethiopia has historical ties with countries in the Horn of Africa, as well as with some some countries in the Arab Peninsula due to the geographical proximity. And the other thing, I think there is doctrine similarities in the region. They share similar faiths like Islam, Christianity, and other sects of religions. I think also the name of Habasha or Abyssinia, it was an empire historically that extended to some countries in the Arab or to the south of Arab Peninsula, and from this point, it enhances the historical ties as well as the trade ties. I believe Ethiopia was a source or was a country that fulfilled the food security of many countries and many regions, including in the Hijaz region, where food items were exported to some of the old ports in that region, and some of the Arab countries hosted Ethiopian residents or Ethiopian traders who established trade offices and used to conduct some businesses in that area. I also would like to allude that the Giz language is a combination of some Amharic or some old African language and some of the terminologies in the Arab language.
The other thing is with regards to the Nile. Had it not been to the Nile, there would haven't been the civilization of the Egyptians and others. And I think it is important to understand how the Nile River helped in the development, and also the ties, developing the ties between Ethiopia and the Arab world, and then you have the Hijrah, the companions of the Prophet, peace be upon him. They seeked refuge in Ethiopia, and we have all these ties. So it is important to understand all these ties that we have between Ethiopia and the Arab world. So even prior to the rise of Islam and during the period of Islam and the spread of Islam and currently even, the relations are very strong. So we need to look into all these dynamics. We have to invest and leverage on these relations to maintain peace and order, and it's important to have dialogue. We need to look into our history, our ties, and that's all from myself. Thank you. I give the floor to Muhammad. Tawakkul. Thank you, Mr. Moderator, and I'd like to thank the guests as well. I would like to thank the interpreters. The interpreters are helping us communicate clearly. I'd like to equally thank the technicians, the camera, the sound technicians, all of them. I would like to take this opportunity to talk about the Afro-Arab relations. We can talk about how they have fought in the same line, in the same camp, and they have suffered together. But when we talk about the Afro-Arab relations, we cannot surpass Yemen. Yemen was the bridge that brought the Arab and Africans, and many, I think, people know that we originally come from Yemen. If we look at the East Africa, most of the people they look Yemenis, and if you actually look into Central Africa, West Africa, you see the difference. So we see the features here. So if we look at the Africans and the Arabs and the relationship, I think maybe 60 or 70% of the Arabs, they're in Africa. So you have the Gulf states and the Arab Peninsula. Of course, they're very close to us, and the only difference is the Red Sea. And if you look at the southern border, I think back in the day, people used to move from Djibouti to Yemen by swimming. It was very, very easy to access Yemen from Djibouti, and likewise from Yemen to Djibouti. So when we talk about the security of the Arab world, then we definitely by extension are talking about the security of the African continent. Yesterday I was following a program, a very important issue. The first cooperation summit took place in 1977. Imagine, in 45 years, only 4 summits took place and were organized, and mostly because of the Arab tension between themselves, and the relationship is very there's an opportunity to invest in it, there's an opportunity to improve it, and I just wanted to say that the cooperation between the Africa and the Arab world is of paramount importance, and whatever affects Africa definitely will by extension affect the Arab world. Particularly, you see the fall of the regime in Libya, in Iraq. So the Gulf influence is there, of course, but it's also important to know that the role of different countries, Syria, Iraq, Libya, their role has diminished because of what has happened. So those in the Gulf Cooperative Council, the GCC, are the ones who have some kind of leverage and say in the landscape, political landscape. Ambassador, you have the floor, please.
I'd like to join others in thanking the presenters for their excellent presentation. My question is very brief related to the Sahel. How much big power rivalry affects the fight against terrorism in the Sahel? Do you see a possibility whereby terrorist groups can use fault lines in this global competition and position themselves to be of use by competing rivals. The experiences in Afghanistan could be instrumental in this. Do you think there is a mechanism in which either the region in ECOWAS or the African Union at large could do something related to this? Thank you.
شكرا. دكتور بدر. Okay. Okay. بعدين دكتور بدر. Okay. You.
Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. It was indeed a wonderful presentation that enabled us to see different parts of Africa at once, and also Africa's very long-rooted connection with the Arab world. I have two inquiries. For the first one, for the first presenter, I saw your presentation as one-sided, and if you add another element to your presentation, I think it would have been much more comprehensive in regard to talking about fragility. That is the vantage point from Ethiopian side, for example. Ethiopia recently able to ensure in a better position its energy security through the construction of the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. That is an opportunity, that is a strength, not a fragility. And at the same time, Ethiopia is aspiring to have an outlet, and it's moving the right direction through peaceful means, of course. And that is an opportunity, not a challenge. And at the same time, very strongly working on the areas of democracy. We are conducting national dialogues and other things involving the participants. In this regard, what we see is a strength. And all of these three issues, ensuring economic security, ensuring energy security, and ensuring political stability are not luxurious matters. These are necessities that Ethiopia is aspiring to achieve through political and peaceful means. So this has to be communicated to our neighbors. Not only this benefits Ethiopia, but also the neighbors as well. The Ethiopian aspiration in regard to the GERD is to provide electricity and power to the neighborhood at large. And that can be a source of integration at the same time. And if you see the Ethiopian history as well in the past, it used to be very much dependent on a very few actors. During the Derg time, for example, it was within the Eastern Bloc. So we used to have a very limited number of allies. And also in the previous period, at the same time, we have limited options. But now we are expanding that option. So the fact that we have a relation with some Gulf African countries means Ethiopia is rather diversifying its partnership with the Latin American and others as well. So in connection to all this, I think it is rather an opportunity for this to unfold. I think I will wrap up with this. I have another question.
Dr. Badr.
Shukran. Thank you. Thank you. My first question is to Mr. Hawass. Somehow I had an impression that the Gulf countries do have some kind of influence in Africa. So my question is, how do you see this influence? Because the Gulf states, they're late to the party compared to other colonizers, maybe former colonizers, or even Turkey, for instance, China, etc. So how do you see the weight of this specific issue? Now, again, Gulf countries, do they have a unified policy? I think this is an imperative question. You see that when there was a siege on Qatar, there was a huge rift between the main players in the GCC. Now, as far as the challenges and what have you, I just wanted to add to what Mr. Mohammed Tawakkol mentioned, the political will. I do not really see the political will. I believe the first summit Afro-Arab was in 1977, and we saw some kind of issues related to the independence of Zimbabwe, South Africa, etc. And the session that was supposed to take place in Riyadh, or which was supposed to hold in Riyadh, was delayed or postponed because of some issues, particularly because of the Polisario in Morocco, Sahrawi Arab Republic, and all these issues. So I think the political will is not there. I will just summarize it as such. Samad? Thank you. Thank you for giving me the floor. Well, my question is to Mr. Hawass. He spoke about fragility. Don't you think that it's a narrative, a media narrative, normative narrative being used by Western medias to somehow gaslight the population? And I think there are many issues that we can look into, particularly when people describe the African continent as lagging behind, etc. Don't you think that they just want to punch this line over and over again? Again, I have another question as far as the Afro-Arab relations are concerned, and Mr. Fadl mentioned something really important. The institutions in the two regions, in the Arab world, in Africa, they need to have a strong cooperations. What is the relation between the African Union and the League of Arab States or the Arab League? So it's very important to look into all these aspects. Thank you. We want to give an opportunity to women, so let's listen from some of the women participants, please. Yes, gender equality. Thank you for allowing the floor. I'm from Al Jazeera. My question is to Hawass. How do you see the strategies, preemptive strategies that African countries can embark on to ensure sustainable development? And how can these strategies help in bringing about regional stability? Thank you. Mahmoud Abdi, I think. Thank you. We're trying to have representation from different regions. Thank you. Thank you. I'd like to thank the presenters, the moderators. Thank you. Mahmoud Abdi from Hargeisa Center for Studies, Somaliland. Now, my question is to Mr. Getachew. Now, as far as the foreign intervention is concerned and the cross-border and transnational dynamic of it, we're currently looking at the issue of access to the sea in the Horn of Africa. So do you believe that this rift between Mogadishu and Addis Ababa can open opportunities for foreign actors that will have negative ramifications? And would it be possible for us to look into solving ways in an amicable way and do not escalating the situation? Thank you. Ubaid. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Nabil. I have a question to Mr. Nigos and Henok Getachew, because both of them deliberated on important issues and they have spoken about specific issues, and they spoke about the Sahel region, to be specific. So myself, I would like to mention something related to the Sahel region. Sahel had mechanical changes, and you have China, and then the G5, and then you have Taco Burma, etc. So if we look at the history of this region from Eritrea all the way to Senegal and Mauritania, many historians say it's comes from the French word, i.e. the Sahel. So I don't necessarily agree with that kind of categorization. I believe this region never had cooperation and development and security, and they have been competing each other to have maybe a weaker ECOWAS. So my question is to both presenters: do you think the problem in Sahel mostly has a geographical problem, and the fact that the people never had a say in the Sahel region, and is there like a political dimension to it where RECs are competing, regional economic communities are competing, and in my humble experience, I believe we need to have strong collaborations. So may I kindly request two presenters to allude to these two questions, please. Thank you. Thank you. Now, pertaining to the relations between Africa and the Arab world and the issue of fragility, I think this is a reality in the Arab world, and we see that there's a lot of fragility, and of course, given the fact that there's climate change and many other aspects in the world, even the world is becoming really fragile, and I think Africa is the storage for resources. It's only perhaps relatively safe, environmentally speaking. So I believe it is important for us to look into this aspect. So many people ask me, why is it that I'm passionate about Rwanda? I said Rwanda managed to have reconciliation, historic reconciliation, transitional justice mechanisms used, managed to come to fruition. We failed in Iraq, we failed in Lebanon. And in Africa, and Rwanda specifically, they have used numerous mechanisms, and I think we need to leverage them. Thank you. May I give the floor to Mr. Hawass? Hawass, you have the floor, please. 3 minutes for you, please. Yeah, thank you. I'd like to thank the participants. I think I can respond to two questions. And, fragility in the narrative, the normative narrative by the Western media. I think also someone said that I was one-sided. I don't think I was one-sided. I think fragility is there. I remember in 2008 when the financial crisis existed in the United States because of the subprime mortgage crisis. Many people said that the financial sector was what? Fragile. So it doesn't mean the state is fragile. It means that some sectors can be fragile, but at the end of the day, we need to identify all these issues, and we need to assess whether or not the whole system is fragile. So there's pros and cons. There are some strong sectors, resilient sectors. But when I say fragility, I do not generalize. It's not to promote the term and to popularize it, if you like. No. I think when we say some of the systems, some of the regimes are fragile, yeah, we can say that it is fragile. Democracy only exists in some African countries for 1 or 2 years, and then what happens is there's a coup. So in this case, we say it's fragile, but are we depicting a wrong picture? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. If we compare it to the Western countries, for instance, in Britain, in the United Kingdom, they have a democracy for many, many years, even though there are many opposition, many people expressing their opinion, and then there was a conflict between ERA and the United Kingdom, so Britain. You see that all these aspects exist, but we need to look into the sectors that are fragile and the ones that are resilient. So one-sided, I beg to differ. I don't think I am. I think I just wanted to shed a light on a specific issue. For instance, the Gulf countries. I said that if there is a conflict between Israel and Iran, what will happen? It will affect a lot of things. The formula is going to be distorted. When I said there will be consequences in Horn of Africa, yes, but what about the Gulf states? Of course, they're going to struggle. They're going to have a difficult period. So are they fragile in that specific aspect? Yes, they are. So, yes, it is important to look into different dynamics. And when I mentioned the Gulf states, I said they only have one source of power, and this is fragility. This makes it very susceptible, vulnerable. So Bab el-Mandeb Strait is very strategic, and it makes the whole region fragile. So when we talk about the opportunities, I like how you mentioned that your country has a lot of opportunities. It's your country, you're a patriot. I like that. But let's talk about electricity. When you have a dam, you're controlling it, yes, but what will happen to Egypt? For them, it's the source of their livelihood. So they're fragile now. So for you, it gives you more power because now you have a new source of income, a new source of investment, a new source of export. But it's making another country fragile. Does this cause instability? Yes, and this is why Egypt is making movements. So we need to have this comprehensive view. So yes, you have addressed one problem, the problem of electricity, and you have made smart investments, but you have created a problem in Egypt. Do you think that the Egyptians are going to remain dormant? No. Of course they're going to be worried because now you're holding the key. Now you have leverage over them. Now you're more stronger than them. So now, of course, they will make some movements, but you have caused a problem. You understand, my brother? So this is what I wanted to say. We have to look at it from a comprehensive aspect. Now, another thing, there's the developmental aspect. Even though, yes, now, currently, we see that the Horn of Africa need to address all these issues. We see the Houthis, the Israelis, we see the movements, we see what's happening in Gaza. Everything is related to the Gulf states, and the Gulf states have American bases, and the American bases have to defend Israel. And if Israel respond or retaliate to the attacks by Iran, what will happen? It will be a mess. The whole region is going to struggle. So Ethiopia always talks about development. Yes, I like that. But then again, what's happening in Gaza, definitely it will have an effect. Where is the African Union from Gaza? What will the African Union did to stop the genocide happening before us in Gaza? And this is not a secondary issue. This is not something that we do just for the sake of placing Gaza. It's related to the security in the Red Sea, the Houthis. They're launching rockets on Israel. And if there is a war between Iran and the Israelis, then of course Gulf countries are going to be impacted. You think you're far from them? You think you're going to benefit from that? Absolutely not. It will be carnage in this region. It will be absolute chaos because the Horn of Africa cannot prosper and cannot have prosperity unless there's stability across the sea in the Gulf states. So I would like to see your way of thinking as far as these issues are concerned. You see Yemen, you see what's happening in Yemen, and no one talks about it. We just listen to the opportunities. Yes, there are opportunities. We can invest in agriculture, in real estate, in bridges, but what's happening in the region? You actually think that that war that's happening is not going to come and have a spillover effect? Or even an investment? Of course it will. So I think our approach needs to be comprehensive. We need to look into all these dynamics at play. We need to know exactly what's going to happen. We need to know that for every action there is a reaction. We need to understand that leverage leads to other movements. And Gulf states, for instance, now they are afraid. that Israel retaliates, and this will cause Iranians to involve in a full-fledged war and attack the bases in Gulf countries. So of course, this is a sensitive topic. Thank you. Thank you very much. Mr. Amaha? There are some questions. Could you please respond?
Thank you so much all for your contributions. Actually, many of the issues raised are, I think, reflections, especially one speaker already mentioned Ethiopia's unique role and historical role in forging Arab-Africa relations, really a very critical point. As we know, Ethiopia is hosting different partnerships, including Arab-Africa, FOCAC, TICAD, and others, and it is playing its unique role. Also, other Arab countries also need to align with this one. Another speaker also mentioned about the importance of political will in forging partnerships. It is true. As we all know, the 5th Arab Africa Forum was supposed to be held in Riyadh 2023, but it was postponed due to different political differences. But you know, there are also other partnerships who have such issues, but they managed to focus on issues which bring them together rather than focusing on their difference. So I think Arab African countries need to learn from other partnerships and hold the 5th Arab Africa Forum as soon as possible. Another question directed is about the conflict in the region, I mean the reasons for the conflict. As we know, there are internal dynamics to conflicts in the both Arab and Africa regions. There are also external dynamics. Internal include ethnic issues. Also, as the speaker already mentions, the lack of democracy. Externally, as we know, there are so many big powers involved in this region. Also, regional powers have different interests in the region. And rather than solving the conflicts in the region, they exacerbate. And there is also interface between the two. We cannot say this is internal, this is external, because they intermingle each other. But the regional states should focus on issues which bring them together. For instance, I mentioned historical relations. And this should be deepened by economic relations, especially in investment, trade, and also other partnerships like aid and the like. Let me stop here. Thank you.
اوكي شكرا السيد هينوك.
Thank you very much, Dr. Abdetta, for your insightful question. I think the region has been penetrated by external powers. So, well, I think replacing one hardware of country A by replacing by another country's hardware cannot be a remedy. So I think it cannot be a panacea, so the solution could be otherwise. So the international system has its own implication on the security ramification in the region. So I think the global rivalry, so Ukraine has recently been accused by Mali representative in the UN General Assembly. So this shows that still it has its own spillover effect on the security dynamics in the region. So I believe that to answer for the first question and the second question, accepting the reality on the ground is important. So the two sides, that means ECOWAS and Alliance of Sahel States, should forge a kind of cooperation. So that could be escaping from the trap, security trap, that could be a solution. Otherwise, invoking again AFSOL, call for expression of interest for other external powers cannot be a remedy for the problem. So I think implementing normative and institutional frameworks can be a solution. And plus, I think the problems are lying with the resources. So I think it is up to the AU and other regional organizations to work on drafting and a kind of convention that manages a kind of precious materials like oil, uranium, and gold. That's my answer.
اوكي ثانك يو فيري ماتش. شكرا جزيلا. انا اعتقد انه وصلت.
Thank you very much. I think we reached the end of our session, which was really informative. And I would like to extend my deep gratitude to our esteemed panelists. and to the participants for your interaction. We look forward to your feedback. I apologize for those who were not availed the opportunity to pose their question. Hope to see you next time in another session. Thank you so much.
Thank you, our panelists, for thought-provoking presentations. I hope it illuminates pathways for a better Africa-Gulf relations. Our moderator, thank you very much for managing the discussion in a very moderate way and for the time management. Thank you. Can you please give a round of applause for our panelists and moderators? And for our participants as well, please. Now we take a break for a lunch, an hour. Our coordinators will wait you right outside. It's in the right, to the right, yes. It's to the right from the conference hall.